to my channel. The day has finally arrived, you guys. I am so excited. You guys know that I have been so excited about these palettes from Charlotte Tilbury. I'm talking about the new GoldGasm palettes. I bought both of them just so that I could give you guys the best review I possibly can. Each one of these palettes retail for $75. Yes, you heard me right, $75. This is the LightGasm palette, and this was designed for light medium skin tone. I have the LightGasm on this side of my face, and then we have the LoveGasm palette, which the LoveGasm palette was designed for people who have tan to a deeper complexion, and I have that on this side of the face. So I wanted to play with both of the palettes. I wanted to swatch them side by side, meaning I swatched the highlighter in the Love palette next to the highlighter in the Light palette. I swatched the bronzer next to the bronzer, the two blushes next to the blushes, because I kind of feel like that's really the best way to see the difference. If you guys are like me, I'm a medium with a golden undertone, and for me, I was struggling to decide which palette would work for my skin tone. Obviously, if you have a lighter skin tone, you're going to go with the LightGasm. If you have a deeper complexion, you're going to go with the LoveGasm palette. But for those of us that are in the middle, us medium, to tan skin, which palette is going to be better for us? And so I wanted to buy both of them just for that specific reason, and also just so that I could have both of them to show you guys the swatches and compare to some of the other palettes in my collection. So she released 3 new Beauty Light ones. Now, I should have brought all 3. I don't know why, but I was already so much money into this, buying both palettes, which are $75 each, and then these are $38 each. I should have just spent the extra money, but I thought, you know what, if I like the PeachGasm, then I'll go ahead and buy the pink one during the Sephora sale. Speaking of the Sephora sale, I heard that Sephora will have these products by the time the Sephora sale launches. And if you guys have not heard about the Sephora sale, I will leave my link to my video up here in the iCards just so that you guys can see all the information about the Sephora sale. This one, I chose the PeachGasm because I love peach. Peach is my favorite. I also got the highlighter, which is called GoldGasm. So I swatch both of these, and I also swatch the one that I have in my collection. And I would say if you're a lighter skin tone and you want one of her liquid highlighters, I recommend the Spotlight. The Spotlight is more of a champagne pink undertone type of highlighter. This GoldGasm is more of a golden but still champagne highlighter, so it's really, really pretty. And the peach, obviously. I'm gonna leave timestamps in the description box down below of, my application, and then all the swatches of me comparing it to all the other palettes that I have in my collection. I wanted to do a really thorough review on this, and I don't want to do anything to save time. I feel like this is a very important launch. These are very expensive products. I want to give it the review that you guys deserve. So I swatched the Light palette and the Love palette next to the Becca Chrissy palette, the new Nars Orgasm Cream Blush palette, obviously the Becca Khloe palette. I also compare it to the Filmstar Bronze and Glow palette for those of you out there that have the Charlotte Tilbury bronzer palette. This is the Filmstar Bronze and Glow in the shade Fair Medium. So I compare the bronzers from both palettes to this bronzer, and the highlighter from both palettes to this highlighter, just so that you guys can see the difference. I love Charlotte Tilbury. I am obsessed with her brand. I want you guys to know that my opinion of these palettes come from somebody that absolutely loves Charlotte Tilbury. So without further ado, let's jump right into the application portion of the video, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to swatch it next to all the palettes that I mentioned earlier, and then I will give you guys my full final thoughts in the end. So I will see you guys in my final thoughts. My Charlotte Tilbury arrived. I've got them here. I've not opened it because I wanted to open it on camera. Let's just get into it. Like, no talking. We are just going to do it. So, of course, this is how all of Charlotte Tilbury's stuff arrives. All right, ladies and gents, I got both of these little babies in my hands right now, and I got the glow ones. It's just a very, very beautiful, beautiful palette. And it's even prettier on the inside. Oh my gosh, it's so pretty. It's so pretty, you guys. It is so beautiful. Okay, so this is LightGasm. And I wanted you guys to see just how beautiful this palette is. Of course, later on, I will swatch it for you guys later on in the video after the application. And this is LoveGasm. So beautiful. It's absolutely stunning. So from Charlotte Tilbury, I have this Beauty Light Wand. This is the highlighter. This is one of my favorite liquid highlighters. And let me just say, I've had this for several months, you guys, like several months. And I use it, I would say 90% of the time. Like I probably use it 80% of the time. Let's just say 80% of the time. This is one of my favorite liquid highlighters. What I like to do with this product is I like to put it on and then go in with like a powder highlighter over top. It just really amplifies things. But this is such a beautiful formula. You can put it over any type of powders. It blends beautifully into the skin. I'm gonna swatch these all later for you guys. I am going to apply this on the skin just so we can see what it looks like. The first shade is a highlight shade. This is a multi-glow shade. This is a bronze shade, and this is a pop of blush. And she says that you can use this on the eyelids, the cupid's bow, the décolletage, wet brush to intensify the glow. I'm gonna put the light on this side and the love on this side. For those of you that use a bigger brush for your bronzer, I kind of want to see if it'll be easy to kind of go in with a bigger brush. I am going to go in with the highlighter first, just so that we can kind of see what it'll look like. So I'm going to take this highlighter brush, and I got some here, and we're going to put some on this side. Okay, so far, this is a very soft palette. So this is not going to give you much intensity, but let's go ahead and put some on the brush and wet it down and see if that gives us a little bit more intensity. Okay, yeah, so it gives you a little bit more intensity if you go in with a wet brush. But these are very soft, but kind of light. Next up, let's go in with the bronzer, and I'm gonna go into the bronzer with my, I'm like digging to get this to pull up on this. Okay, I had to dig, you guys, like I had to go like this to get some to come up. Let's see. Seriously? Oh, where's the color? Okay, so it's buildable. Let me go in with a more dense brush. Okay, so that builds up some intensity. This is not very pigmented. Okay. So I think if you're going to use a brush like this, that's a little bit more like on the wispier side, I don't know that you're going to get much intensity with a brush like that. So just know that, you know, this is not a very pigmented bronzer. So I'm going to wipe the brush off, and I'm going to go into this shade right here. That's pretty. Kind of just gives you a nice flush of color. Now I will come closer so that you guys can see what this looks like. So I'm going to try not to edit this part as well, just so that you can see how many times I have to go in to build it. So now let's go into the pop of color right here, or this pop of, what does she call it? Pop of blush. Okay, so this is not very pigmented for me. I feel like probably for somebody with a lighter to light medium skin would probably work well with this, but it doesn't really show up. This is just kind of a very light flush of color on the skin. So for those of you that don't like the, you know, a lot of blush, that's totally up your alley. Because me, I like a lot of blush. Okay, so I have two of these kind of brushes here. I'm gonna wipe off my highlighter brush, and I'm gonna go into this highlighter up here. Let's go in dry first. It's a really pretty highlighter. Very subtle, very soft. It's not very pigmented though. Again, it's just a very soft pigment. So I'm going to take this brush, I'm going to go into the bronzer, but I'm going to wipe this brush off and see if I can use this brush to see how much pigment I can actually get from this palette. So I have a little bit here. I'm going to take my blush brush. I'm going to go into the bronzer right here. Okay. Now it looks more like a blush to me on my skin. It kind of looks like more of like a rosy, kind of like a dark rosy kind of blush. Let's go into this one. Obviously, this is definitely more for deeper skin tones, you guys, but I just wanted you to see what this would look like. It's definitely got that red tone. All right, I'm gonna wipe the brush off, and now I'm gonna go into the pop of color right here on the bottom. I want to go into this shade up here, okay, and spray it like I did the last one. Okay. So this is the Love side, just so you guys can see what that looks like applied on the face. And then, and by the way, I did not set my face with powder yet, so all I have on is foundation, which is kind of why I'm looking a little dewy. I'm wearing the Light Wonder foundation from Charlotte Tilbury, which is one of my favorites. This is the LightGasm palette. All right, while I have you guys pulled in, let's go ahead and see if I can put these on the eye. So I've got this brush right here. Let's first go into the bronzer. Okay, let me show you guys how much product is picking up. Okay, so I had to go in pretty good to get that much pigment to come onto the brush. So just FYI. I'm going to take a pencil brush that's clean. I'm going to go into the bronzer. Okay, I got some right here. And I am going to bring some along my lower lash line. I'm going to take another clean brush and let's go into, I'm just going to like dip back and forth between these two shades. And I'm going to place this on the eye. I'm gonna go into this other side right here and just kind of maybe press this over top. I don't know if you guys can tell a difference between this side and this side, which is the side I have not done yet, but we're gonna continue. So I'm gonna go ahead and wipe the brush off, and I'm gonna go into the bronzer. I'm gonna like really dig. But the bronzer does have a red undertone. So for those of you that have a deeper skin tone, if you like a red undertone bronzer, then this will work for you. And then I'm going to take that pencil brush and I'm going to take this shade and bring it along my lower lash line. I'm going to take this side of the brush, I'm going to go in and dip between these two. And then I'm going to go into the highlighter, this one right here, this one right here, and go over top. All right, before I go off camera, because this side doesn't have as much pigment on it, I want to try this PeachGasm. So a tip on using these is that when you want to use the product, you have this little tip on here that opens and closes the product. When you don't want to release any product into the tip, you close it. Now, when I release product into the tip, I close it up, and that product that I released into the tip, that will last me 4 to 6 different applications. So don't keep putting, like every time you use it, don't open it up and push more product into the tip until you need it, because that's I think the thing that makes this last quite a long time. I'm gonna add a little bit right here, and I'm just gonna kind of tap it out with my finger. Okay, that color is absolutely beautiful. It's such a pretty color. And I love her liquids. Her liquids blend into the skin like nothing I've ever had before. Like, I don't know that I have any other liquid product that blends into the skin like this. As you can see, I don't even need to go over that with a sponge. I quickly blended it in and it's good. So these blend very, very quickly into the skin. I'm gonna do this color on this side for the highlighter so that you guys can see what this color looks like. You can see what I have right here on my cheekbones right now, but like I said, this is not new. This is the color Spotlight, and she's had this one for quite a while now. So all you do is just take a little bit like that, and then I just blend it out with my finger. Okay, so I wanted to show you guys, for those of you who have light medium skin and maybe this new color isn't gonna work for you, I wanted to show you guys what that shade looks like. It's absolutely pretty, and it's kind of a pink champagne shade. Okay, so now we're gonna go ahead and play with the GoldGasm, and I am going to twist it like this. See how it twists? And then you just kind of squeeze the tube and you will see some product. See how the product came through like that? I'm gonna close it back up. And I always recommend closing it back up because you're gonna put some pressure, you know, and squeeze the tube as you're applying it, and you don't wanna squeeze out too much. So I recommend as soon as you get on there, go ahead and close it up. Seriously, you guys, her liquid highlighters are unbelievable. If you love a natural, beautiful liquid highlighter that blends so beautifully into the skin, you will not be disappointed. But see how beautiful that looks? That one's actually a really pretty shade. And here are the three swatches of these three liquid products that I have, okay? So this is the GlowGasm, which is the new highlighter. This is the PeachGasm, which is the new blush. And then this is the Beauty Light Wand in the shade Spotlight. So this is the one that's the older one. And then these two are new formulas. Very, very pretty. Like, I really, really love both of those. They're so pretty. Okay, so here are the swatches of the two palettes. So what I did was I swatched the highlighters next to each other, the two blush shades next to each other, just so that you guys could see what the shades look like next to each other. So these two shades right here are both of the two highlighters, the first two shades in the palette. This is from the LightGasm palette. This is from the LoveGasm palette. So you can see the differences between these two highlighters. This one I would say is a light gold champagne shade. This one right here. It doesn't really have a lot of pink in it. It's, in my opinion, a light gold champagne. So let's swatch it next to the Amrezy. Okay, so this is the Amrezy, which you can tell is very blinding. It has that blinding effect. And this is the Charlotte Tilbury LightGasm. So it's this shade right here in the light palette, okay? So as you can see, they have the same tone. So it's definitely similar, but the Amrezy is just much more vibrant. These two shades right here are the first blush shades in the palette. So like the top blush shade. This is from the LightGasm and this is from the LoveGasm. So as you can see, that LoveGasm is a really rich red color, and it does kind of give you that highlighted effect. Now I applied these with a brush on my eyes. When I get done going through the swatches, I am gonna just take my finger directly on the lid and see if I get more pigment than I do with a brush. So for those of you out there that are curious by that. Now this right here is the bronzer. This is from the LightGasm and this is from the LoveGasm. And then this is the pop of blush in the LightGasm, and this is the pop of blush in the LoveGasm. So the LoveGasm is more kind of a peachier red tone. This one is kind of a holographic purple. So as I switch and kind of move my arm around, you'll see kind of has like a purple undertone to it. Okay, so this is the TanTastic from Marc Jacobs. This one right here, okay? That's the Omega bronzer. This is from the LightGasm palette. This is from the LoveGasm palette. So as you can see, the LoveGasm bronzer has more of a redder undertone, like I said. So for those of you who like a matte bronzer, I don't know that you will like this one because it does kind of have a nice sheen to it. It doesn't have any shimmer or anything like that, but it does have a nice sheen to it, and it's a very warm bronzer. Again, this is from the LightGasm. This one is the Marc Jacobs. I wanted to compare the LightGasm palette to the Becca Khloe palette. So this right here is from the LightGasm palette. This is from the Becca Khloe palette. This shade right here is the LightGasm palette from Charlotte Tilbury. It's the top blush shade. And then this one is the top blush shade in the Khloe palette. This is the LightGasm bronzer, and this is the Becca bronzer, just so you guys can see. They're very similar in shade. The bronzers, I would say, are probably almost identical, and these two shades are almost identical. Like, the palette's very similar. The difference between this palette is these two shades. So this is from the LightGasm palette from Charlotte Tilbury. This is that bottom blush shade in the Khloe palette. This shade right here. This one definitely stays more within that traditional peach tone than this shade does in the LightGasm palette. Normally when I wear this palette, I put the bronzer on and then I'll go in with this blush and I will put this over top to give it a little bit of a shimmer, and then I'll put this on as a highlighter. So this one, this shade right here layers really pretty over this shade. I did buy the Malika palette, but I ended up giving that to a friend here on YouTube. She has a deeper skin tone, and I knew that that Malika palette would definitely go to waste if I kept it. Why not gift it to somebody that can use it? All right, so let's see if there's any similarities from the Becca and Chrissy palette. So for those of you out there that have the Becca Chrissy palette, here is the blush in the Becca palette, the Becca Chrissy palette. Let's swatch this blush. I'm wondering if it's similar to one of these two shades from the LoveGasm palette. So this one is the LoveGasm, and then this one is the Chrissy palette. So they're similar in tone, but definitely different. Let's go into this peachy shade right here, and let's go into the LightGasm palette and grab that shade. I think that might be similar. Let's see. Yes. Okay, so those are almost, wow, those are almost identical. Those are very, very, very similar. That looks almost exactly the same of what this shade looks like. It's weird, right? Those are very, very similar. Let's see what the bronzer looks like. So actually, the bronzer from the Becca Chrissy palette is very similar to the bronzer in this LoveGasm. As you can see, that is almost identical. This bronzer right here from this Becca Chrissy palette has that same type of sheen to it. It has that same type of sheen, that satin sheen that both of the Gasm palettes, the GoldGasm palettes, have from Charlotte Tilbury. Let's see if there's a shade similar to this one, and that one broke and I had to fix it. And let's see what if it matches this shade in the LoveGasm palette. Okay, so the LoveGasm is more peachier, and the one from the Becca Chrissy palette is more it has more of a rosy purplish undertone to it. So as you can see, I hope you guys can see that. See what it looks like next to this one in the LightGasm palette. This one is holographic, so it has almost the same purpley undertone, kind of, you know, because this one right up here in the Becca Chrissy palette, that one has a purpley undertone, but the one from the LightGasm, this one right here, this one has more of a holographic look to it than the Chrissy one, but they have the same similar undertones. So you know, that's definitely something to think about. So let's go ahead and swatch the bronzer from both of these palettes next to the bronzer and the highlighter. For those of you out there that have this is one of my favorites, and I like how you get like a highlighter and a bronzer in one, and the formula is to die for. It's one of my favorite bronzers. Now, even though these are going to be different textured, you guys, because these GoldGasm palettes they have like that satin sheen to them, and even the Filmstar Bronze and Glow palette is more powdery. So this is a powder formula and this is more of a satin formula, but I still want to show you guys the difference between the bronzer and the highlighter. Okay, and by the way, I have this Filmstar Bronze and Glow in fair medium. So she does have two different palettes. I have it in fair medium, so just FYI. Okay, so here are the highlighters. So this one right here is the LightGasm palette. This is the Filmstar Bronze and Glow highlighter. And then this is the highlighter from the LoveGasm palette. This one in the LightGasm has a little bit more of a shimmer to it. This one is, I would say it's like a vanilla highlighter, like a vanilla shade, if that makes sense. It's kind of a vanilla highlighter shade in this palette. Okay, so down here are the bronzers, and this is from the LightGasm palette. This is from the Filmstar Bronze and Glow Fair Medium, and then this is the bronzer in the LoveGasm. This one is a lighter shade than this one, and I still get more pigment from this bronzer. So I just wanted to show you guys what that looks like. Next up, I have the Orgasm palette from Nars. Let's go into this shade right here. So again, this is a different formula, but let's go in and see. So that one has a purple undertone, okay? And that one is this one right here in the Orgasm palette. And there's not really anything in here that's purple except for that holographic shade that I was just talking about from the light palette, this one right here. So let's swatch that. I mean, that's just not really, there's no similarities there. So let's go into this shade right up here. And that one is called Super Orgasm. Okay, so that's Super Orgasm. Gosh, it's so pretty. But I don't think it's for everyone. And I don't wear a lot of face powders. So I think for those of you out there, it seems like those of you out there that likes to set your face and you kind of do that whole baking process and stuff, seems like those who are not liking this are people who use more powders. Like, I don't use a lot of powder, so I think that's probably one reason why I really, really enjoy it. So again, this one is from the Nars, and this one from the LightGasm palette is just lighter in my opinion. So, you know, it's definitely got the same undertone, but this one has more of that holographic moment. Again, similar to that shade though. So let's go into the LoveGasm palette, this one right here. Again, this one has that peachy undertone, but this shade right here in the this shade right here in the Orgasm palette, this shade right there, this one looks very similar to this one in the LoveGasm palette. So the LoveGasm palette is a little bit more peachy, and this is a little bit more bronzy, a little bit more on the coppery side. This is the highlighter from the Nars palette. This is the highlighter from the LightGasm palette, and then this right here is from the LoveGasm palette. I'm still trying to get these all like I can't spit them out. So definitely the LoveGasm has that gold undertone, but these are very similar. I want to go in with my finger, and I want to go into this light peachy shade and see if I can kind of pack that on my lid. Okay, so these are going to be much better with a finger. See how much prettier that made that look? So I recommend, if you want to put this on your eye, I recommend using your finger. The finger is going to just be the way to go. The brush doesn't really work. I'm going to go into my finger and go into this shade right here and put it on this side. See how much more pigment I'm getting with the finger? I mean, and I think that's pretty usual. Like, that's not abnormal, you know what I mean? Sometimes products like this have a hard time, a brush has a hard time picking it up. And so especially when you're gonna want more pigment on your eye than you do your face. So it seems like a brush just really struggles to pick up this kind of a pigment. Kind of somewhat remind me of the feeling of the Amrezy. So for those of you out there that have the Amrezy highlighter, you know that it's not like a powder formula. This is not a powder formula. This is definitely more of like a satin sheen type of formula. So if you guys have that highlighter, you will kind of know what to expect when you're playing with this. And it's the same type of formula of this palette from Becca and Khloe. All right, so let's get into my final thoughts. Now, you guys know that I have been so excited about these palettes, and I was stalking my email waiting for these to arrive. I could not wait to play with them. I don't really love these, and I feel sick saying that, but these don't really build that well. For example, when I apply the Becca and Khloe palette, this allows me to build. So the bronzer it's not as pigmented when you first put it on, but so extremely buildable. As you're applying it on the face, you're like, oh my gosh, like I definitely get more pigment when I go in with like a second time. So like I'll go in with my brush, put it on, and then I'll go in for a second time. With the light palette from this Charlotte Tilbury collaboration, or from the light palette on this side, I had to go in like 4 different times, and I still really don't even look like I have a bronzer on. It seems to me like I have more of a blush on with no bronzer, and I don't really like that. I don't really like how the bronzer applies in here. And you guys, being that these are $75, every shade needs to count. I always say that when I'm reviewing a Pat McGrath palette or a Natasha Denona palette. If you're spending a lot of money on a palette like this, you want every shade to count. And I feel like the bronzer in here just doesn't cut it for me and what I need in a palette. But the LoveGasm does. Like, it gives me that rich, it kind of gives me that buildable formula. But the problem is these blushes in the LoveGasm are way too red for my skin tone. For me, I think that a medium skin tone looks so beautiful with a peach. I'm a peach fan, you guys know I am. And for me, like, I wish that this bronzer was more buildable than it is. And I even think those of you out there that have lighter skin are really not going to get that much pigment from this bronzer. This bronzer is a total flop. It's a dud, which is such a bummer because it's $75 for this palette. I like the other shades. I don't love them, but I like them. You guys know me. You know that when you look at this palette has me written all over it, right? I don't love it. I don't love it. I feel like the Becca Khloe palette is so much more pigmented, and I love the way this applies on my skin. I absolutely love it. Now, I am going out of town on vacation for the weekend, so if I wasn't, I would come back tomorrow and film me applying this on one side of the face and this on the other. I will put that up next week as just kind of a small, short video just to show you guys the differences between these two palettes and the way that they apply on the face. But I'm going to tell you right now, I'm still going to grab this one over this one all day long, and it pains me to say that because I love Charlotte Tilbury, like gut-wrenching. Like, I feel like I'm ready to vomit by saying that, but I can't come on here and tell you guys that these palettes are worth $75 because I don't feel like they are. If you are interested in this palette and you don't have the Khloe palette or the Malika palette, I will leave a link to my video of me reviewing the Malika palette and the Khloe palette, swatching them side by side. For those of you who would like to see the Malika palette, you guys can check that video out. Like I said, I give it to a friend, or I would show you guys here on camera. But these two palettes are unbelievably beautiful on the face. So I kind of had it in my mind that this LightGasm and the LoveGasm palettes were going to be very similar to this. I don't feel like this palette is for me, okay? I don't. I'm not gonna reach for it like I reach for my Khloe palette. However, I do feel like this palette is perfect for that person that isn't so heavy-handed with their blush and bronzer like I am. So if you love just this soft, beautiful, little bit of sheen to the face that's on here, because I know there's a lot of people out there that like just this light dust of color on the skin, you will love these because I do love the formula on these. They swatch better than they apply. I am going to continue to kind of play around with them, maybe use different brushes. This kind of brush just does not pick up the bronzer at all. Like, you have to like dig into it to get this to pick up. But I just feel like this is kind of not for everyone. I don't hate this product, But for me and what I like in palettes and what I like on the face and how I like my makeup to look, this doesn't fulfill that need. I need something a little bit more pigmented than this has to offer. But for those of you out there that don't like all that pigment, Charlotte Tilbury, the way that her products apply on the face is just spectacular, you guys. Like, it is like no other. It just really melts into the skin and becomes so natural and so skin-like. This is just one of those palettes that's not for everyone. But if you are somebody that doesn't like all the pigment, you will love these. So I think you have to ask yourself, number one, do you have any of the palettes that I have swatched here in my collection? Because if you have any of those palettes, I don't think you really need these, because I kind of feel like the shades are so similar that I don't really feel like you need them, especially for $75. Like, if these palettes were like 50 bucks, I would say, hey, it might be an extra fun, you know, thing to add to your collection. Now, this one does come with more product than the Becca palette. This Becca Khloe palette has 12 grams of product. This Charlotte Tilbury palette has 15.2 grams of product. So you get a few more grams in this palette than you get in this palette, because this palette is 75, this palette is 44. So I don't know that that's worth the price difference, but you do get more product in this than you do get this. I don't dislike these palettes, but I do think that you really need to ask yourself what kind of person you are. If you're somebody that likes more pigment, but you still like a buildable formula, I don't know that you're gonna love this. But if you're somebody that doesn't really like a lot of pigment, but you love that flush of color, I think you'll love this. I do, however, love these. Like, these are amazing. Like I said, if you like liquid and you're starting to get into cream blushes or liquid highlighters, I'm gonna tell you right now, there is no other brand on the market like the Charlotte Tilbury when it comes to her liquid products. Even the contour, it blends just immediately. I feel like everybody will really, really enjoy these. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Thank you guys again for all the love that you guys show me and my channel. It truly means the world to me. I hope you guys have a wonderful Easter weekend with your family. I love you all so much, and I will see you guys in the next video. Love you.